I only grabbed some stuff from 2001.
Okay.
Carlisle goes on to dominate this game and win it 21-0. The Wildcats getting it done with their defense. Well, we always like to send Dave Bingham out for a couple of games. He doesn't just sit here with the coach all night. He's out there shooting games, and Dave, you had a couple good ones tonight.
Look at our shirts match.
Yeah.
Kevin didn't have the same shirt we did.
Out there, but hey,
We didn't allow him to
Norwalk
have the
tonight.
same
Norwalk had a great run last year, and see if they can get it going. We're big in Norwalk. I think there's Dan, Chrissy, and some of the other girls. But hey, Walkie,
I think the thing that was weird is how we never were doing the news. We were always, and we ended up pumping up ourselves every once in a while, you know, like saying stuff like, we're big in Norwalk. And you were like, you said this, you're getting ready to tell Matt Dillon, like, yeah, you know, Matt sets his VCR every week for the East Side Pharmacy Play of the Week. It's like,
we're going to start off with
Ward's East Side. Yeah, I mean, some of the sponsors that we had.
Yeah.
All right, I was a little out of order. Zach Eggleston got the touchdown. We moved on to class. We skipped a class, but that's all right. We'll get back to Eggleston. 30 yards.
We're in Class A.
27-0 in the second quarter. Then Van Meters, Adam Leach is going to get the sack on Brent Lowry. And Van
I'm
Meters
just
knocked
randomly
off Linville
playing
Kelly
stuff, but
tonight,
this is all
41-14.
2001.
Okay. So this is the 25th year.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Quarter looked like they were really going to dominate the game and maybe run away with it. Tim Heaston was just hitting everybody in sight. I mean, he was hitting guys before they were taking the handoff. He had a huge game for Dowling. But Valley made a big, big play right here. Dowling gambled on a blitz. And there goes Drew Hilgenberg, 86 yards untouched.
That's over at the old stadium.
So the very
Yeah.
end, he will dive in for the touchdown. This came late the first half. Cut the lead to 14-6 in favor of Dowling. That's where they stood at the break. I'm telling you, these two teams are just...
See, you're so old. You shot more games there than you ever shot at the new stadium.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Watch this play coming up for Dowling's defense because Todd Baldwin, talk about reading a play. Again, Baldwin's there right as the handoff gets there. 21-6. Dowling is the final, and we will visit. We're going to see the last touchdown first, though, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right, Kevin? We're going to see the last touchdown coming up here. Well, it's after this. All right, we're going to watch this play.
Unapologetically honest the whole time we're doing the show.
Right.
Carpenter on the pass. It's like Holman calling it in for the touchdown for Dowling. That made it a 21-6 final. After the game, Kevin Hall caught up with Dowling.
We got a soundbite on the blitz.
But we didn't play with the darn, so we got to get better. We got to get better. First quarter, we played great. After that, we just went to sleep. So we got a long way to go.
Our defense was out
It was
there all
kinda-
night. We knew we just had to stop them. We were dedicated to stopping them. We did it all night.
See, I don't remember individual games that much. What I remember is the players. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, like that's
Yeah.
to me.
There's way too much to talk about, so hopefully we'll be able to get through this.
Oh, I think we'll be able to get through it.
Oh my God, it's just going to be awesome. That's the one thing I've been amazed at how professional you continue to be over the years. But this is impossible for us to do something like. I don't want to get you in trouble either. But I don't
You're not
think
gonna get me in
I
trouble.
don't think I can get you in trouble anymore. We're past that stage where we're
Yeah.
worried about.
Right.
Let's start. When this blitz, I don't know if you and I were driving to a Dan McCarney press conference, and I mean we talked about it every year.
Yeah.
97, 98, 90. We got to do the half-hour show. We got to do it.
Yeah.
And I know
I remember the details.
I'm not going to come up with the. I just want to hear your version of
Okay.
what was because we were going to.
It was going to Iowa City.
Oh, it was going to Iowa
we-
City.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But we.
This isn't Sportscast in the Box. That was years later.
No, that was years later. So, 1996, I left Channel 8 to go to Channel 5, be the sports director. And when I did that, I'd always enjoyed covering high school football at Channel 8. But, you know, you got 5 minutes for sports, and you did 5 or 6 games on a Friday night, and that was fine. That's what everybody else was doing, and that was kind of the standard. And it's just what you did, right, with your sports department, and you didn't think beyond that. But when I got to Channel 5, I thought we could get to more games. You know, let's everybody try to get to 2, and I'll go out and shoot a couple myself, and we'll just get to. Let's see if we can get to like 8, 9, 10 games on a Friday night.
Because sure, Jim Zabel went out and shot games.
He was always out there with the camera on his shoulder.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, let's try to get to 9, 10, maybe 11 games. You know, we just kept bumping the number up to the point where it's like, hey, we went to 12 games this week. And we're still cramming all that into, you know, we got a little extra time. We had maybe 7 or 8 minutes for sports extra. And you and I, when you came on board, you loved high school sports so much that, you and I were driving to Iowa City and we were just talking. We gotta give it more than this. We gotta do something that'll have more kids, get a highlight on the air and have more teams and more of these small towns that you don't get to as much. And so we were just, brainstorming back and forth on our drive over to Iowa City, and we just said, we got to do it. Well, let's go to Ray Cole, and Ray was our boss at Channel 5. He ran the stations, and he loved the idea. He was all over it. And so next thing you know, we had a half-hour show, and we're like, okay, now what are we going to do? Now we got to figure out how to fill this thing. So, but it allowed us to say, okay, we're going to go to, 13, 14 games in a week, and we're going to get to some of these towns where they've never had a camera, for a high school football game. They're kind of on the outskirts of our viewing area, but they deserve to have some coverage. They're good teams. And so, so we did that, but then we had to, okay, how else are we going to fill the show? And you're so good with the coaches, we decided to have you sit down and have an interview with a coach each week after they'd come into the studio, sometimes at the very last second, and sometimes later than the last second. But then we do a feature each week to, showcase a player or a team or something great that was going on in high school football. And it really took off, and we just loved it, and we just kept building it, and to the point where you started doing Blitz Extra and going an extra half hour on a game from the week before that was just really in-depth and really cool. And it's amazing to me that it's been 25 years since we had that idea. And now a lot of stations around the country are doing something similar. I'm sure some were before we did it, but not in Iowa that I know of. I don't think anybody in Iowa was doing a half-hour show. And to me, that was the best thing, is we're going to give high school football the showcase that it deserves, the spotlight that it deserves, and we just had a lot of fun with it.
Well, you knew if you were good now, like if you were Madrid or you were State Center. I mean, how in the hell? I'm gonna go back for a second. Numbers. So if we wouldn't ever got married and had kids, we'd still be doing stupid stuff like this. But which is really weird. How and Ken Winkler talked about it the other day. He's still just a kid, right? But here's this thing that simplifies you is like you went right back to it. We do 11, we do 12. You never once. Your thing was the number, and I didn't care. I was like, all right, John, let's do 20 games. I just actually want to go to the games. I don't give a damn.
Right.
Like I just want to go. I just want to go to New Sharon or Sully. I just want to go to this game because it's a good game. I want to go there. But you wanted to, and then you'd always have like a notebook of how many we covered versus the competition. But Roland and Bailey and those guys, they couldn't compete with us.
No.
But you were always like, we've done 175 games or something.
Okay, we were at Channel 5. They were third place station in the market, and we had to do something to kind of make a name for ourselves. And so anytime we could put something up there that says, hey, we beat the other stations at this, we were going to do it, and I look at Brad Edwards with the weather there and how they've, championed that, and they should. When you have victories there, you should really celebrate them. And so, but it's different now, Dave, because now you can, all these schools have streams, and you can upload files, and you can do all this stuff. All we had was the accelerator. We had the accelerator, and so it's like, okay, we're gonna. And I'm from Chicago, right, originally. So for me, it was like, okay, what better way to learn the geography of Iowa than to sit there and map?
I don't know how you did it. I really don't.
You helped, but we sit there with the map, literally with a map, and say, well, if you got to Van Meter, you could get to Earlham, and then you could get to Adel. Yeah. You could do that triangle, and somebody over here.
You would be like, I'm thinking, let me tell you, and then I'd be like, oh, yeah, you could easily do that. You could go to Roland's story and get back to...
Yeah, we almost made it sound way easier than it really was. Yeah. But it was so much fun to go... That was my favorite part of it, was to go into Guthrie Center or to go into Martinsdale or someplace where they just weren't used to having a TV camera there.
Where they kicked the ball into the cornfield, and then the dog
would run it out. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you went to places that weren't used to having a TV camera there. When you walked in with that camera and a Blitz jacket, people went nuts. It was like you were the president of the United States walking in there or something, right? And that was so much fun because those schools deserved to have some coverage. And to me, that was the most fun, was just going to those small towns. And sometimes it was pushing it a little bit, where I'd be getting back at
You're
10 o'clock
killing me. You just
Yeah, it wasn't always pretty. I mean, you didn't want to see the sausage being made. But
Kevin was talking about that too. What for you? I mean, that was just part of it, like beta camera, notebook.
Yeah.
Talk to people about how what you were going through logistically on that night, because you were also the guy. I think we loved the planning part, like you were talking about getting the map out.
Yep.
You really loved that. I mean, you were like,
well, you had to be organized.
yeah,
or you
what
had
if
no
we?
chance.
And you were like, maybe we. And so that was a big deal, right?
Right.
But then, we goofed around until it was time to go. But you had to think about what you were going to do that night, and sometimes you didn't. Like you were laid out the door or whatever.
Well,
but
and games dictate whether you stay longer.
Yeah,
I mean,
you wouldn't give in.
No, you hate giving in. If the game's getting good, you got to stay. And so, but we would not only plan out the map on Monday or Tuesday. I would also write all the intros and get the whole sportscast written for that Friday night, and just hope nothing happened between 6 and 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, and because it was going to be the same sportscast at 6 as it was
Hell
at 10.
yeah.
So, but then we took it another level, and it's like, okay, we're not just going to have our sports department guys out there shooting. We're going to grab a guy from production or a guy from the weather department. It didn't matter. We took anybody who wanted to put a camera on their shoulder on a Friday night.
Did Big Game James shoot the Blitz, or was he there in 98 and 99? Because, I mean, by the time, remember Big Game James with the SV camera? I mean, Kevin kind of remembered him.
That's got to be even pre-Blitz, I think.
I think it probably was. But I'm like, use that SV camera. I saw one back there.
And those were horrible to edit off of. But I mean, the bottom line was, instead of going to these towns and just showing 2 highlights and moving on to the next game because you just didn't have enough time, with a half-hour show, you could go to a game and show 10 highlights, which is great. Like I said, more kids are getting their spotlight, getting their moment in the sun, and deservingly so. And so, but yeah, we pushed it. But it was like, hey, you got to get all that stuff done during the week so that when Friday night rolls around, it's just like shoot games, get back, put the highlights together. And the smartest thing I ever did with the show was to have you guys do your own highlights, because at first it was just me trying to do everything as far as the narrating and the voicing over of stuff. Me and you would just be the only ones doing it.
Yeah.
And eventually we're like, this is stupid. If Dave Zavolinsky's out shooting a game, let him do his own highlights.
Yeah.
If Eric Murphy's out of the game, let him do his own highlights.
Maybe Zubin. Maybe you could maybe allow Zubin Mahente to do his own highlights.
Let Z do his own highlights. Probably, that's what got his career kick-started. But, to me it was like, okay, that made life a lot simpler. And then I was like, well, now I'm going to start staying at these games a little longer too, because I can. And I know that everything's going to. But, a lot of those Fridays after I took over as voice of the Cyclones, it was like, all right, I'm traveling on Friday, so I'm not going to be there for the show. So I had to put it in your guys' hands. But that's when it really took off, is when we started having everybody do their own highlights, and a lot
more smart aleck comments back and forth.
Back and forth. Yeah, for sure. And the Halloween costumes and all that kind of stuff. You remember that one?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Zavolinsky was different than us. I mean, we weren't afraid to. I wasn't afraid to make fun of you. You weren't afraid to make fun of yourself. But then he went off script, not about football, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here, Walters? This is not. We are not talking about, what Randy Hinkle and Donnie Lincoln are doing to get Madrid ready for this game. It's about Zavolinsky.
Well, one of my favorite Blitz moments of all time was when we did a Halloween broadcast.
I'll bring that one up and show people that sometime.
All right. Well, Dave dressed up as Borat.
Yeah,
right?
It was not, and I'm like.
And Eric Murphy had the mustache and did his part, and then we went to Dave, and he's there as Borat. And I didn't know he was doing it.
I didn't know either.
So I tossed it to Dave in the newsroom. He's going to do his highlights, and there he is as Borat, right? And he says, "I like you, you're like me," and he went through the whole shtick,
Yeah.
And did his highlights that way, which was hilarious, and then he tosses it back to me, and I said, Dave, if you would spend as much time, perfecting your craft here at Channel 5 as you do finding your costumes, maybe we'd be Iowa Sports Leader, and a little reference to Channel 8 there, but it's like we had fun with it, and we were always having fun, jabs back and forth, and
I was sitting there at this time, like, I've been bringing coaches in here talking about character and work ethic.
And then we're the opposite.
And I'm like, yeah, it was almost like the Hank Stram or Vince Lombardi. What the hell's going on out there? You know. But then for a minute, it's like, okay, this is the new generation. You know, the kids like.
We had fun. You gotta have fun. You know what?
This was pre-Twitter, but thank God.
You know,
thank God we didn't have Zavolinsky with all the social media, though.
Well, I've always said about any kind of broadcasting, whether it's for a TV station or calling a game for Iowa State or Drake or whatever the case may be, calling a high school game, you better sound like you're having fun.
Yeah.
You better look like you're having fun, because if you're not, why is anybody else going to invest their time into watching what you're doing if you don't look like you enjoy what you're doing?
Yeah.
You know, if it looks like it's a root canal for you, well, then nobody's going to really want to watch it. But we had fun, and we all liked each other. We all got along great, and so that made it really fun. But yeah, it was the little banter for us that made it so much fun to do.
Well, we stored stuff, and some of the stuff that we grew up inside baseball stuff became part of the Blitz, and then I think people around the area still say it. And use some of that stuff, because I'll have people say, like, I'll be at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and somebody will think that I'm, somebody from Channel 8 or whatever. And then my go-to, though, if they do know me or don't know me, is, we haven't called off the Blitz just yet. And they're like, that's awesome. And so that's the one that, I just pull out of there and throw back at people if they're, like, confused, if they think I'm Steve Carlin or
do you remember
Ed
this
Wilson
one?
Or whatever. I mean, people, it's amazing.
Yeah. Do you remember this one? So my daughter, Annie, was dating one of the guys that played for Ankeny. And so I said to her, hey, Annie, I'm going to show a quick shot of your boyfriend to start off the highlights tonight of the Ankeny game. She goes, oh, that'd be awesome. What channel? And I'm like, the same one I've been working at for 16 years. I mean, so I, of course, had to introduce the highlights that way and chuck the scripts, but I mean, if you can't have fun with it, but there were so many moments like that.
Well, we were in our heyday with Joel Lanning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's my neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, it just got to the point where it was so much fun that we couldn't do it, and because of the way we grew up with our Sports Center background and the people that, the Harry Callises or Harry Carey or whoever, we were never, even though we were kind of using stuff that we'd heard, it was just part of our vernacular. But, the right there's the Howard Cosell, because I use that all the time, and I would just be like, we're going to go eat right there. IKM Manila, so we had weird stuff that we did.
Yeah.
But I mean, why is it though that Jeff Johnson, me, Todd Bailey, some guys that didn't even work with us, and you worked with so many people that weren't on the Blitz, why are we only comfortable, like, with people that we worked in TV with? Like, why can we only be ourselves around then? Because we can't always do it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. Every one of us...
I mean, we're not hiding. We're just quieter when we're around other people.
And every one of us put our lives on the line by standing on the sideline shooting those highlights. And, who could ever forget Bailey wearing that protective hood when he got knocked over and went back and hit his head on the back of the ground, and but thank goodness it was a cold day. He had the protective hood on.
It
kept him from getting concussed. But the
garage sale, though, I mean, there was stuff going everywhere, and they had
how many cameras did we break? But it was just a free for all, and it was like, man, this is what we got to do. We got to go cover as many games as we could, and then. I don't know how many speeding tickets we racked up as a group, but probably not as many as we deserved.
Well, and I told Parker, who was probably going to ask you some questions at the end, we were shooting stuff the other night, and he was coming out, and we've got these DSLRs, and it's all different. And I'm like, don't be a hero.
Right.
If somebody's, get the hell out of there. This isn't. But back then, we hung in there. You just always had to watch the second person, and Bailey got smoked. But what's fun?
Bail out.
Yeah, well, you just get out of there. But why is it so funny that some of our best friends, our greatest moments are sharing their pain of getting knocked out? So the Chuck Reed, when he gets knocked out in the Iowa State game.
No, it was Iowa, New Mexico State.
Oh, is that what it was?
Tim Dwight.
Yeah, Tim Dwight kicked him in the head, knocked him out, and as he falls over, Roland starts writing down. We got shot. Roland writes down the highlight of the touchdown.
Yeah, that was an all-timer because Chuck was shooting down the end zone.
Do we still have that? Is that only?
It's at Channel 5. We'll ask Jake Brand to pull it out for us sometime.
Yeah, Jake. He's good at the historical stuff.
He loves that stuff. Chuck's just beyond the end zone, the north end zone there at Kinnick Stadium. Tim Dwight makes a great catch against New Mexico State and somersaults, and his leg just flies up and hits Chuck. And
It
Chuck's,
was just like a boom, boom.
Yeah, Chuck's hat goes up in the air and it starts spinning around. And by the time the hat lands, he's asleep. And then Todd Rowland, who was there, wasn't even working for a TV station anymore, just wanted to go to the game. Chuck. So he goes over and he's just writing down the time code and the highlight. It's like, geez, Rowland, the guy's dead right here. You could at least check on him, you know. So anyway, I get a call from Rowland. He says, "Hey, I'm on my way back from Iowa City." I go, "That's great. Where's Chuck?" And he goes, "He's in the hospital."
But I got the tape. We're good.
University Hospital across the street, and because I didn't see it live, it wasn't on TV. I had no idea Chuck got wiped out like that. But when I saw the video later, it was just incredible. But I mean, we all had our stories of barely avoiding contact, and that's just part of the fun. And then cold nights, rainy nights. I mean, weather. There's so many factors that affect how well you can do your job, but we didn't care. We just wanted to get out there.
Remember when we'd have like a bad white ballots or the Irish? You'd be like, "We're on the moon!" And we're on the moon.
This game played on the surface of the sun.
The surface of the sun. That was such a good line. Not the Friday Night Blitz, but you were so innovative in life. So it just made me think of like you telling Jake Brand to get that video. Remember when we first got Windows at Channel 5? It kind of threw you off a little bit because you're a DOS-based guy. But remember I was like, hey, you can put your contacts in here in this thing, and we could actually like Rolodex our tapes here. Yeah. And I don't know what you were calling that thing, the archive
filing system.
What were you calling it? You called it something fancy. Yeah. But you would go through every one of those beta tapes.
You gotta know where stuff is.
And you would bring it down, and you were putting it on there.
Yeah.
And then a few years after, of course, I was on my own, but I still did the Blitz. I would come in, I'd be like, "How's that going?" He goes, "You're like, the whole thing, it blew up. I got nothing."
The whole filing system blew up.
You did the Sergeant Schultz.
But I'm glad that we still have those charts. And you know what? I think one of my favorite things we did on the Blitz was the Friday night flashbacks. You remember that?
Yeah.
So we do like a flashback each week, and we show Casey Blake or Chris Street or Fred Hoiberg, playing football
those
in
were
high
awesome.
school. And that was so much fun. And but we wouldn't have been able to do that if we hadn't charted it all and figured out what everything was. And so that was really a cool thing because they should do that again today. That's one that the Blitz. I love the fact that you guys are still doing the show. I think it's fantastic that the show lives on 25 years later. I've been out of it for 12 years now.
Jeez.
But the show lives on, and it's awesome. And credit to everybody at WOI who's come in after me and has kept it going and done just a fantastic job, stretching it out to an hour now. I mean, unbelievable that our little creation is now an hour-long show. But yeah, I think they should bring that back, the Friday night flashbacks. Because I know, man, I'm sitting at home, man, I would love to see some of those shots of Chris Street playing quarterback for Indianola or Fred Hoiberg playing quarterback for Ames.
Yeah, because now it'd be Kyle Orton, Kevin Hall, and I were talking about him. There's so many great.
Tim Dwight. I mean, we had a lot of great flashbacks. That was one of my favorite deals.